Captain Jake Miller was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm went off. The sound was loud and sharp. It filled every corner of the ship. Jake put down his cup and ran to the bridge. His boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. The bridge was full of flashing red lights. Amy Johnson sat at her station. She was the person who handled all the radio calls. Her face looked worried. She turned to Jake when he walked in. "Captain, we got a distress call," Amy said. Her voice was shaking. "A little. It's bad, sir. Real bad." Jake walked over to her station. The radio was making crackling sounds. Through the noise, he could hear a voice. The voice sounded scared. It was speaking in the language of the Zelkari people. Jake knew some of their words. "What are they saying?" Jake asked. Amy pressed some buttons. The computer started to translate the words into English. "Their ship is on fire, Captain. The engine broke, and now there's fire everywhere. They can't get it to stop." Lisa Park ran into the bridge. She was the chief engineer. She knew everything about engines and machines. Her hair was messy, and she looked like she had been working hard. "Captain, I picked up their ship on our scanners," Lisa said. She was breathing hard. "It's the Moonweaver. She's a passenger ship. There are about 50 people on board." Jake felt his stomach drop. 50 people. That was a lot of lives in danger. "How far away are they?" 2 hours at full speed," Lisa said. "But, Captain, there's something else. The heat readings are crazy. The inside of that ship is like an oven." Ryan Scott looked up from his station. He was young and good with numbers. He always knew where they were in space and how to get places. "Captain, I'm reading temperatures over 800 degrees inside that ship. That's hot enough to melt some metals." Jake rubbed his face. He had been a ship captain for 10 years. He had seen many bad things in space. But this was different. The Zelkari were reptile people. They looked like big lizards that walked on 2 legs. They were smart and kind, but they could only live in cool temperatures. Anything over 35 degrees would hurt them. At 800 degrees, they would die in seconds. "Are there other ships in the area?" Jake asked. Amy checked her computer. "Yes, sir. The Galactic Rescue Center sent out a call. There are 3 other ships closer than us. 2 Altarian vessels and 1 Corvin ship." Jake knew about those species. The Altarians were bird people. They had feathers and could fly, but they liked cold places. The Corvins were like big blue bears. They were strong, but they also liked cool weather. None of them could handle heat like this. Dr. Kate Brown walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's doctor. She took care of people when they got hurt or sick. Kate was smart and always stayed calm when things went wrong. "I heard the alarm," Kate said. "What's the situation?" Jake told her about the burning ship. Kate listened, and her face got more worried with each word. "Captain, at those temperatures, most species would die almost instantly," Kate said. "Even with protective suits, they couldn't last more than a few minutes." The radio crackled again. The Zelkari voice came through the speakers. This time the words were clearer. Amy worked fast to translate them. "They're saying the rescue attempts failed," Amy said. Her voice was quiet. "The other ships tried to send people in, but it was too hot. They had to turn back." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He could picture the scene. Those poor Zelkari, trapped in their burning ship. The heat getting worse every minute. Other ships trying to help, but unable to get close enough. "There's more, Captain," Amy said. She looked like she might cry. "They say some of their people are trapped in the lower parts of the ship. The elevators don't work. The stairs are blocked. And there's a child down there, a little one named Kethfer." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Not anger at anyone, but anger at the situation. A child was trapped in that burning hell. While adults could understand what was happening, a child would just be scared and alone. Lisa looked at her computer screen. Captain, the Stellar Dawn has some heat protection gear. It's new stuff we picked up at the last station. It's meant for working near hot stars and in engine rooms. How much heat can it handle? Jake asked. The makers say it's good for temperatures up to 900 degrees, Lisa said, but only for about 20 minutes. After that, the cooling system fails. Ryan was working at his station. Numbers and charts filled his screen. Captain, if we push our engines hard, we can be there in 90 minutes. But that burning ship won't last much longer. The heat is building up. Soon the whole thing will explode. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was good. They were the best people he had ever worked with. But this was dangerous. More dangerous than anything they had done before. Amy's radio came alive again. This time, the voice was different. It was an official voice from the Galactic Rescue Center. All ships in the area, this is Rescue Command. The situation aboard the Moonweaver is beyond current rescue capabilities. All species have attempted entry and failed due to extreme heat. We are declaring this a lost situation. Please stand by to assist with survivor recovery from escape pods only. Jake felt something cold in his stomach. They were giving up. The rescue people were saying those trapped Zelkari were already dead, including the child. But Jake had been in space long enough to know something important. Humans were different. They could handle things that other species couldn't. He had worked in places so hot that his alien friends couldn't even visit. He had fixed engines while they were still burning. His skin would turn red and he would sweat like crazy, but he could do it. Lisa, get that heat suit ready, Jake said. His voice was firm and clear. Amy, tell the rescue center we're going to attempt entry. Captain, Kate said, this is extremely dangerous. Even for a human, those temperatures could kill you. Jake looked at her. Then he looked at each member of his crew. There's a child on that ship. If we don't try, who will? The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Lisa nodded. I'll prep the suit, Captain. Ryan started plotting a course. We'll be there in 85 minutes if I push the engines to maximum. Amy opened a channel to the rescue center. This is the cargo ship Stellar Dawn. We are moving to assist the Moonweaver. Captain Miller will attempt rescue entry. Jake could hear surprise in the voice that came back. Stellar Dawn, please repeat. Did you say attempt entry? The internal temperature is over 800 degrees. That's correct, Rescue Command, Amy said. We're going in. Jake walked to his captain's chair. He could feel his heart beating fast. He was scared, but he was also determined. Somewhere in that burning ship, a child was waiting for help. Jake wasn't going to let that child down. The Stellar Dawn changed course and began flying toward the fire in space. The Stellar Dawn flew through space faster than it had ever flown before. The engines made loud humming sounds. Jake could feel the ship shaking a little from the speed. In the engine room, Lisa was working on the heat suit that might save his. Life.Jake stood in the equipment room and watched Lisa work. The suit looked like a big white robot costume. It had thick padding everywhere. There were cooling tubes running all through it like veins. A small computer was attached to the back. This suit was made for working near hot stars, Lisa said. She was checking all the connections. The cooling system uses liquid nitrogen. It should keep your body temperature normal, even when everything around you is burning. Kate walked into the room carrying a medical bag. She looked worried. Jake, I need to check you before you put that suit on. Your body needs to be in perfect shape for this. Jake sat down and let Kate check his heart and lungs. She looked in his eyes with a small light. She took his blood pressure. Everything was normal, but Kate still looked scared. Your body is healthy. Kate said. "But Jake, this is crazy. No one has ever tried to work in temperatures this high. We don't really know what will happen." "The suit makers tested it," Jake sighed. "It worked in their tests." "Their tests were different," Kate said. "They tested it in controlled places. This is a real fire on a real ship. There will be smoke and dangerous gases. There might be explosions." Jake nodded. He knew Kate was right. This was more dangerous than any test. But he also knew the child was still trapped. Every minute they waited, the ship got hotter. Amy's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, we're getting close. I can see the Moonweaver on the screen now." Jake and Kate ran to the bridge. Through the big window, they could see the burning ship. It looked terrible. The metal sides were glowing red like coals in a fire. Smoke was coming out of holes in the hull. Parts of the ship were bent and twisted from the heat. "My God," Kate whispered. "How is anyone still alive in there?" Ryan was working at his station. "Captain, I'm scanning for life signs. I can find about 15 Zalkari still on the ship. Most of them are in the upper levels, where it's a little cooler. But I'm getting a small signal from the lower deck." "That must be the child." Amy was talking on the radio. "Captain, the rescue center is trying to tell us not to do this. They say it's suicide. They want us to wait for special equipment that won't be here for 6 hours." Jake shook his head. "In 6 hours, that ship will be gone, and so will everyone on it." He looked at the burning ship again. It was bigger than the Stellar Dawn. It had been a beautiful passenger vessel. Now it looked like a nightmare. Jake could imagine how hot it was inside. But he also imagined that scared child waiting for someone to help. "Lisa, is the suit ready?" Jake asked. "Yes, Captain, but I want to go over the plan one more time. You'll have 20 minutes of cooling, maybe 25 if you're lucky. After that, the system will overheat and shut down." Jake nodded. "What about air?" "The suit has its own air supply. That's good for 40 minutes. But Captain, the heat will be the problem, not the air." Ryan turned around in his chair. "Captain, I've been studying the ship's layout. The child is on deck 7. That's the lowest level that still has life support. To get there, you'll have to go through 6 decks of fire." Jake walked over to Ryan's station. On the screen was a map of the Moonweaver. Ryan had drawn a red line showing the path Jake would have to take. It looked like a long way through a very dangerous place. "The main elevators are broken," Ryan said. "But there's an emergency ladder system. It goes straight down through the center of the ship. If you can reach it, you can get to deck 7 fast." Amy looked up from her radio. "Captain, I'm talking to the Zalkari captain. His name is Vartuk. He says the emergency ladder is still working, but it's getting very hot. He doesn't think anyone can use it." "What about the other survivors?" Jake asked. "They're trapped in a dining hall on deck 3, Amy said. "The doors are stuck because the metal got too hot and bent. They can't get out, but they're in a big room with some air conditioning still working." Jake thought about this. He could try to save the people on deck 3 first. They were closer and easier to reach, but that would use up time and cooling power. He might not have enough left to reach the child. "The child has to come first," Jake said. "Kids can't survive as long as adults, and one person is easier to carry than a group." Kate put her hand on Jake's arm. "Are you sure about this? Once you go in there, we might not be able to help you. If something goes wrong." Jake looked at his crew. They were his friends. They had been through many dangers together. He knew they would do anything to help him. But this was something he had to do alone. "I'm sure," Jake said. "Get me into that suit." It took 15 minutes to put on the heat suit. It was heavy and hard to move in. The cooling tubes made it thick and bulky. Jake felt like he was wearing a refrigerator. The helmet had a small window to see through. A radio let him talk to his crew. Lisa checked all the connections one more time. The suit is working perfectly, Captain. Temperature inside is 68 degrees. Cooling system is at full power. Jake walked to the airlock that connected to the Moonweaver. His steps were slow and careful. The suit made him clumsy. Amy had talked to the Zelkore captain and gotten him to open the airlock on his ship. Captain, Ryan's voice came through the radio. I'm sending the ship layout to your suit computer. It will show you where to go. Just follow the green line on your screen. Jake looked at the small screen inside his helmet. He could see a map with a bright green path marked on it. It started at the airlock and went down through the ship to where the child was waiting. Amy, are you still in contact with the child? Jake asked. Yes, Captain. Kethver is scared, but still talking. I told the child that help is coming. Zelkari children are very smart. Kethver understands what's happening. Jake reached the airlock door. On the other side was the burning ship. He could already feel heat coming through the metal. His suit's cooling system worked harder. Kate, monitor my body temperature, Jake said. If it gets too high, tell me. I'm watching everything, Jake. Your heart rate is high, but that's normal. Body temperature is still good. Jake put his hand on the airlock. Control. Lisa, how long do I have? 20 minutes from the time you enter that ship. Don't push it past that. The cooling system will fail, and you'll cook. Jake took a deep breath. The air in his suit tasted like metal and plastic. He thought about the child waiting in the fire. He thought about his crew who trusted him. He thought about why humans were different from other species. Humans didn't give up. Even when things looked impossible, humans kept trying. Other species were smart and careful. They calculated risks and made safe choices. But sometimes being safe meant letting people die. Opening the airlock now, Jake said. He pressed the button. The door slid open. Heat hit him like a wall. Even through the suit, he could feel it. His cooling system immediately started working at maximum power. Warning lights began flashing on his helmet display. Jake stepped into the Moonweaver. A corridor was like being inside an oven. The walls glowed red. The air shimmered from the heat. Smoke made it hard to see. I'm in, Jake said, starting the clock now. 20 minutes, Captain, Lisa's voice said. Good luck. Jake began walking, deeper into the burning ship. Behind him, the airlock door closed. There was no turning back now. Somewhere ahead of him, through corridors of fire, a child was waiting to be saved. The rescue had begun. Jake walked through the burning corridors of the Moonweaver. Every step was difficult. The heat suit was heavy, and the floor was hot even through his thick boots. Sparks fell from broken lights above his head. The walls around him glowed like red metal fresh from a fire. Captain, how are you doing? Kate's voice came through his radio. Jake looked at the temperature reading inside his helmet. Suit temperature is holding at 70 degrees, but I can feel the heat trying to get in. The green line on his map showed him the way to go. He had to reach the emergency ladder system in the center of the ship. From there, he could go straight. Down to deck 7, where the child was trapped. Jake turned a corner and stopped. The corridor ahead was blocked. A large piece of the ceiling had fallen down. Hot metal and wires were everywhere. Smoke poured out from behind the wreckage. Ryan, I've got a problem, Jake said. The main corridor is blocked. I need another way. Ryan's voice was quick and clear. Captain, go back 20 steps. There should be a side corridor to your left. It will take you around the damage. Jake did what Ryan said. He found the side corridor. It was narrower than the main one, and even hotter. The walls here were so hot they were starting to melt. Jake's suit cooling system worked harder. He could hear it humming loudly. Lisa, how? Much cooling power am I using? Jake asked. About 60%, Captain. That's more than we hoped, but still okay. You have 17 minutes left. Jake kept walking. The narrow corridor seemed to go on forever. His breathing was getting heavy, not because he couldn't get air, but because he was working hard in the heavy suit. Sweat was starting to form on his face. He reached another turn. This corridor led back toward the center of the ship. Jake could see a sign on the wall. Even though the metal was red hot, he could read the words, "Emergency Systems Deck Access." "I found it," Jake said. "I can see the emergency ladder area." Jake walked toward a heavy door. The door was designed to stay closed during emergencies, but the heat had warped the metal. The door was stuck half open. Jake had to squeeze through the gap. On the other side was a large round room. In the center was the emergency ladder. It was a metal shaft that went straight up and down through all the decks of the ship. Normally, there would be a platform and safety rails, but the heat had damaged everything. Jake looked down the shaft. He could see red light coming from the lower levels. That was where the child was waiting. But between him and Deck 7 were 6 levels of burning ship. "Captain, your suit temperature just jumped to 75 degrees, Kate said. Her voice sounded worried. "The cooling system is having trouble keeping up." Jake started climbing down the ladder. Each rung was hot even through his gloves. The shaft was like a chimney carrying heat up from the lower decks. As he went down, it got hotter and hotter. 15 minutes left, Lisa said. "How are you feeling, Captain?" "Hot," Jake said. "Really hot, but I'm okay." He wasn't really okay. The heat was starting to get through the suit. He could feel it on his skin. His body was beginning to sweat more. But he kept climbing down. Deck 6, Deck 5, Deck 4. Jake passed each level. Through the doorways, he could see corridors full of fire. The ship was burning from the inside out. Metal was melting. Pipes had burst and were spraying hot steam. "Captain, I'm reading some Zelkari life signs on Deck 4, Ryan said. 2 adults. They're not moving, but they're alive." Jake stopped climbing. He looked through the doorway to Deck 4. About 50 feet down the corridor, he could see 2 shapes on the floor. They were Zelkari crew members who had collapsed from the heat. Jake had a choice. He could try to save these 2 adults, or he could keep going to save the child. But he didn't have time to do both. His cooling system was already working at its limit. "How much time to get to them and back?" Jake asked. "About 3 minutes," Ryan said. "But Captain, your cooling system is already at 80% power. Adding more time in this heat could be dangerous." Jake thought for a moment. 2 lives versus 1 life. But the child was smaller and weaker. Children couldn't survive as long as adults in dangerous situations. And these adults had chosen to be crew members on a spaceship. They knew the risks, but Jake also knew something else about humans. They didn't leave people behind if they could help it. "I'm going after them," Jake said. Jake climbed through the doorway onto Deck 4. The heat hit him like a wall. His suit's cooling system immediately jumped to maximum power. Warning lights flashed in his helmet. The corridor was filled with hot smoke. Jake could barely see. He followed his helmet's built-in radar to find the 2 Zelkari. They were lying near a sealed door. They had been trying to escape when the heat overcame them. The first Zelkari was a female. She was breathing but unconscious. Jake picked her up. Even though Zelkari were smaller than humans, she was still heavy to carry in the thick suit. Jake carried her back to the emergency ladder shaft, where it was a little cooler. "1 down, 1 to go," Jake said. He went back for the second Zelkari. This one was male and larger. Jake had to drag him because he was too heavy to carry. The hot floor made dragging difficult. Jake's suit temperature was now at 80 degrees. "Captain, you need to get out of there," Kate said. "Your body temperature is starting to rise. This is dangerous." Jake got the second Zelkari to the ladder shaft. But now he had a new problem. How could he get 2 unconscious adults down 6 levels of ladder? He couldn't carry them and climb at the same time. "Ryan, is there an emergency transport system?" Jake asked. "Yes, Captain. Each deck should have emergency pods. They're like small elevators that can move people during emergencies." Jake looked around Deck 4. He found an emergency pod station near the ladder shaft. The pod was small, just big enough for 2 people. Jake loaded the unconscious Zelkari into the pod and sent it down to the main deck where his crew could recover them. "Lisa, time check," Jake said. 12 minutes left, Captain. But your cooling system is at 90% power. I don't think it can keep up much longer." Jake started climbing down the ladder again. Deck 5, Deck 6, Deck 7. With each level, the heat got worse. His suit was working as hard as it could. He could feel the cooling failing slowly. "I'm on Deck 7, Jake said. "Where's the child?" Amy's voice came through the radio. "Captain, I'm talking to Kethfer now. The child is in storage room C7. That's about 100 feet from the ladder shaft. Follow the corridor to the right." Jake climbed through the doorway to Deck 7. This was the worst heat yet. The corridor walls were glowing orange. The floor was so hot that his boots started to smoke. His suit temperature jumped to 85 degrees. "Captain, you need to hurry," Kate said. "Your core body temperature is starting to rise. This is getting into the danger zone." Jake ran down the corridor as fast as he could in the heavy suit. The storage rooms were along the right side. C1, Q2, H3. He kept going. The heat was incredible. His cooling system was failing. C-6, C7. Jake found the door. It was sealed shut, but there was an emergency release. Jake pulled the handle. The door opened with a hiss of hot air. Inside the storage room, behind a fallen shelving unit, Jake saw a small shape. It was Kethfar, the Zelkari child. The little one was curled up in a ball, barely moving. "I found the child," Jake said. "Kethfar is alive but unconscious." Jake climbed over the fallen shelves. The child was small, about the size of a human 6-year-old. Kethfar's reptilian skin was dry and pale from the heat, but the child was still breathing. Jake picked up Kethfar and wrapped the small body in his emergency thermal blanket. The blanket was designed to protect against cold space, but it also worked against heat. 10 minutes of cooling left, Lisa said. "Captain, you need to get out now." Jake started the journey back, but as he carried the child, he realized something terrible. His cooling system was finally failing. The temperature inside his suit was now 90 degrees and rising fast. "Kate, I'm in trouble," Jake said. "The cooling is going out." "Jake, you need to get to the ladder shaft right now. Don't stop for anything." Jake ran through the burning corridor. His legs felt weak. Sweat was pouring down his face. The child in his arms felt like a small furnace, but he held on tight. He reached the ladder shaft. But now he faced the hardest part of the rescue. He had to climb up 6 levels while carrying an unconscious child and wearing a failing heat suit. "Here we go, Kethfer," Jake whispered to the child. "We're going home." Jake began to climb, one rung at a time, up through the fire, up toward safety. His cooling system was almost gone, but his human determination was just getting started. Jake climbed up the emergency ladder shaft with Kethfer in his arms. The child was wrapped in the thermal blanket, but Jake could still feel the heat coming from the small body. His suit's cooling system made a grinding noise and then stopped, working completely. Cooling system failure. Lisa's voice said through the radio. She sounded scared. "Captain, you're on your own now." The temperature inside Jake's suit jumped from 90 degrees to 100 degrees in just a few seconds. Then it kept climbing. Jake's body started to sweat heavily. His breathing became hard and fast. "Kate, what's my body temperature?" Jake asked. "It's rising fast," Kate said. "Jake, you need to get out of there right now. Your body can't handle much more of this." Jake kept climbing. Deck 6. His legs felt weak and shaky. The child in his arms seemed to weigh more with each step. Sweat was getting in his eyes and making it hard to see. "Captain, talk to me," Amy said. "How are you doing?" I'm okay," Jake said, but he wasn't okay. His suit temperature was now 110 degrees. That was hotter than any human should have to endure. His heart was beating very fast. His head was starting to feel dizzy. Deck 5. Jake's hands were slipping on the ladder rungs. The metal was so hot it was burning through his gloves. But he couldn't let go. If he fell, both he and the child would die. "5 more levels, Captain," Ryan said. "You can do this." Jake tried to take another step up the ladder, but his leg wouldn't work right. He almost fell. Only his tight grip on the ladder saved him and Kethvar from falling down the shaft. "I can't ... I can't feel my legs," Jake said. "That's the heat." "Affecting your nervous system," Kate said. "Jake, you have to keep moving. Your body is going into heat exhaustion." Jake forced himself to take another step, then another. His suit temperature was now 115 degrees. That was hot enough to cook food. But somehow, Jake's human body was still working. Deck 4. This was where Jake had rescued the 2 adult Zalkari. He could see the corridor where he had found them. It looked even worse now. The walls were starting to melt. Jake's vision was getting blurry. Black spots danced in front of his eyes. He knew what this meant. His body was shutting down from the heat. But he also knew something else. Humans could push their bodies beyond what should be possible. "Captain, your body temperature is 104 degrees, Kate said. "That's dangerous. You need medical attention. Immediately." Not until we're safe," Jake said. His words were slurred. Talking was becoming difficult. Jake kept climbing. His movements were slower now. Each step took all his strength. The child in his arms was still unconscious, but Kethvar was still breathing. Deck 3. Deck 2. Jake could see the top of the shaft now. The airlock was just one more level up. But that level might as well have been a mountain. Jake's body was failing. "I can see you on the thermal scanners," Lisa said. "You're almost there, Captain. Just a little more." Jake tried to take another step, but his leg gave out. He slipped down 2 rungs before he could catch himself. The sudden movement woke up Kethvar. The child looked up at Jake with big, scared eyes. "Are you the human who came to save me?" Kethvar asked in a weak voice. Jake looked down at the child. Even through his pain and exhaustion, he managed to smile. "Yes, little one. I'm Jake. I'm taking you home." "My parents told me that humans are very brave," Kethvar said. "They said humans never give up." Those words gave Jake new strength. He thought about what humans were known for throughout the galaxy. They didn't give up. They didn't leave people behind. They did impossible things because someone needed help. "That's right," Jake said. "Humans don't give up. And neither do we." Jake started climbing again. His body was screaming in pain. His suit temperature was now 120 degrees. But he kept moving, 1 rung at a time. "Amy, tell the Zalkari captain that we have his child," Jake said. "Tell him Kethvar is safe." "Yes, Captain. Captain Vardik is crying. He says to tell you that the Zalkari people will never forget what you're doing." Finally, Jake reached the top level. The airlock was just 50 feet away down a corridor. But this corridor was the hottest yet. The walls were white-hot. The air itself seemed to be on fire. "Captain, the ship's structure is starting to fail," Ryan said. "Some sections are going to collapse soon. You need to get out right now." Jake started walking down the corridor. Each step was agony. His legs barely worked. His vision kept going black. But he held on to Kethfer and kept moving forward. Halfway down the corridor, Jake collapsed. He fell to his knees on the burning floor. His body wouldn't go any further. The heat had finally beaten him. I can't make it," Jake whispered. Kethfer looked up at him. The child's eyes were clear and brave. "Jake, you have to get up. My people need you to get up." Jake looked at the child. Such a small person, but so brave. If Kethfer could be brave while trapped in this burning hell, then Jake could find the strength to finish the rescue. "You're right," Jake said. "We're going to make it." Jake forced himself to stand up. His legs were shaking, but they held him. He walked the last 25 feet to the airlock. Each step felt like walking through fire, because that's exactly what he was doing. "I'm at the airlock," Jake said. "Opening it now," Lisa said. "The stellar dawn is ready for you." The airlock door opened. Cool air rushed in from Jake's ship. After the terrible heat of the Moonweaver, it felt like jumping into a cold lake. Jake stumbled through the doorway carrying Kethfer. On the other side, his crew was waiting. Kate had a medical stretcher ready. Lisa was standing by with cooling equipment. Amy and Ryan were both there to help Jake collapsed as soon as he was through the airlock. Kate and Lisa caught him before he hit the floor. Jake's suit was smoking. From the heat, his face was red and covered with sweat. "Get that suit off him," Kate said. "His body temperature is dangerously high." Lisa worked quickly to remove the heat suit. Jake's clothes underneath were soaked with sweat. His skin was red like a bad sunburn. But he was alive. Kate checked Kethfer. The child was dehydrated and weak, but unharmed. "The child is going to be fine," Kate said. "Jake, you saved a life today." Jake tried to sit up, but Kate pushed him back down. "You're not going anywhere until I check you completely," she said. "The other Zelkari," Jake said. "The 2 adults I sent down in the pod. We got them," Amy said. "They're both conscious now and recovering. They're going to be fine, too." Jake closed his eyes. He had done it. He had gone into a place that was too hot for any known species to survive. He had rescued 3 people from certain death. His body felt like it had been cooked, but he was alive. More importantly, so was Kethfer. "Captain," Ryan said, looking. At his instruments, the Moonweaver just lost structural integrity. "The whole ship is collapsing." Through the airlock window, they could see the Zelkari ship breaking apart. Explosions lit up space as the burning vessel finally died. If Jake had been just a few minutes later, everyone would have been lost. Kate was giving Jake medicine to help his body recover from the heat. "Your core temperature was 106 degrees when you came through that airlock," she said. "That should have killed you. I don't understand how you kept going." Jake looked at Kethfer, who was lying on a medical bed nearby. The child was awake now and looking back at him. "Because someone needed help," Jake said. "That's what humans do." Outside the window, other rescue ships were arriving to help the Zelkari survivors who had made it to escape pods. The burning ship was gone, but most of the people who had been on it were safe. Jake had proven something important that day. When everyone else said something was impossible, humans found a way to do it anyway. When the heat was too much for any species to survive, a human walked in and brought out a child. "Did you know this?" Rescue was complete, but Jake's story was just beginning to spread across the galaxy. 3 days later, Jake was feeling much better. His skin was still red from the heat, but Kate said he would heal completely. He was sitting in the medical bay when Amy came in with a big smile on her face. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy said. She was holding a communication tablet. "Messages are coming in from all over the galaxy." Jake looked at the tablet. There were hundreds of messages. They were from different species on different worlds. All of them were talking about what Jake had done on the burning ship. "The news spread everywhere," Amy said. "Every news service in the galaxy is telling the story. They're calling you the human who walked through fire to save a child." Jake felt embarrassed. He had just done what needed to be done. He didn't think it was special enough for all this attention. Dr. Kate Brown came into the medical bay. She was carrying more communication devices. "Jake, the Galactic Council wants to talk to you. So does the Selkari government, and about 50 news reporters." "I don't want to talk to reporters," Jake said. "I just want to get back to work." Kate smiled. "I told them you would say that. But Jake, you have to understand what this means. You proved that humans can do things other species can't do. A whole galaxy is talking about human abilities now." Ryan Scott walked in carrying his navigation computer. "Captain, I've been tracking the news feeds. The story's the most talked about event in the galaxy this week. Some species are saying humans should be given special roles in rescue operations." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see space and stars. It looked peaceful after all the fire and heat. But he knew his life had changed. People would expect things from him now. "Where's Kethver?" Jake asked. "The child is in guest quarters with the other Zalkari survivors," Kate said. "Kethver has been asking to see you every day." Jake nodded. "I want to visit them." Jake walked through the ship to the guest quarters. The 2 adult Zalkari he had rescued were sitting at a table. They looked much better now. Their reptilian skin had returned to its normal green color. When they saw Jake, they both stood up and bowed. "Captain Miller," one of them said, "I am Sector, Chief Engineer of the Moonweaver. You saved my life. I can never repay this debt." The other Zalkari stepped forward. "I am Nithara, Navigation Officer. You carried me to safety when I could not move. The heat should have killed you, but you did not give up." Jake felt uncomfortable with their formal "Thanks. You don't owe me anything. I'm just glad you're safe." A small voice came from the corner of the room. "Jake, you came to visit." Kethver ran over to Jake. The child looked completely healthy now. The young Zalkari's eyes were bright and happy. Jake knelt down so he could talk to Kethvar at eye level. "How are you feeling, little one?" Jake asked. "I feel good," Kethver said. "Dr. Kate says I'm all better. But Jake, I want to ask you something." "What do you want to ask?" Kethver looked serious. "Why did you come into the fire to save me? You didn't know me. I'm not even the same species as you." Jake thought about the question. It was a good question. Why had he risked his life for someone he had never met? "Because you needed help," Jake said. "That's what friends do. They help each other when there's trouble." "Are we friends?" Kethver asked. "Yes," Jake said. "We're friends." Kethver smiled, showing small pointed teeth. "My parents want to meet you. They're coming on a ship from our home world. They said they want to thank the human who saved their child." Amy's voice came through the ship's speakers. "Captain Miller, please come to the bridge. We have an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council." Jake sighed. He had been hoping to avoid the official calls a little longer, but he knew he had to face them eventually. "I have to go talk to some important people," Jake told Kethver. "But I'll come back and visit you again. Promise?" The child asked. "I promise." Jake walked back to the bridge. His crew was all there waiting for him. On the main screen was the symbol of the Galactic Council. This was the group that made decisions for hundreds of worlds and species. "Put them through," Jake sighed. The screen changed to show 3 aliens sitting at a large table. Jake recognized them from news reports. There was a tall, thin Altarian with blue feathers. Next to it was a large, furry Corvin with golden eyes. The third was a Menthari, a species that looked like walking crystals. The Altarian spoke first. Its voice was high and musical. "Captain Miller, I am Council Speaker Veltar. We are calling to officially thank you for your heroic actions." The Corvin leaned forward. "Your rescue of the Zelkari civilians has impressed the entire galaxy. We have never seen such resistance to extreme heat." The crystal-like Menthari made a sound like wind chimes. "The Council has voted. We wish to offer you the Galactic Medal of Valor. This is the highest honor we can give. No human has ever received this award." Jake looked at his crew. They were all smiling and looked proud, but Jake still felt uncomfortable with all the attention. "Thank you," Jake said, "but I just did my job. Any good person would have done the same thing." The 3 council members looked at each other. The Altarian spoke again. "Captain Miller, that is exactly why you deserve this honor. You believed that anyone would do what you did. But the truth is, no other species could have survived those temperatures. You did something that was physically impossible for anyone." "But a human? We have another proposal," the Corvin said. "The Council wants to create a new rescue service. We want humans to lead dangerous rescues that other species cannot attempt. Will you consider this?" Jake thought about it. He looked at his crew again. Lisa, Kate, Amy, and Ryan had all been part of the rescue. They had made it possible for him to save those lives. "Can my crew be part of this service?" Jake asked. "Of course," the Menthari said. "Your entire team showed exceptional skill and bravery." Jake nodded. "Then yes, we'll do it." The transmission ended. Jake's crew gathered around him, all talking at once. They were excited about the new mission. But Jake was thinking about something else. 2 weeks later, the Stellar Dawn was docked at Galactic Station 7. This was one of the biggest space stations in the galaxy. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked here. Was in the station's main hall, wearing his dress uniform. Around his neck was the Galactic Medal of Valor. It was made of rare metals from dozens of worlds. But Jake was more interested in the small group of Zelkari standing near the stage. Kethver was there with 2 adult Zelkari. These were the child's parents. They had traveled from their homeworld just to meet Jake. The mother was tall and elegant. The father was shorter but looked strong. The ceremony was short. The station commander talked about human courage. Several alien dignitaries made speeches about interspecies cooperation. But the best part came at the end. Kethver walked up to Jake, carrying a small crystal. It was green and blue and seemed to glow with its own light. "This is a friendship crystal. From my world," Kethver said. "My family has carried it for many generations. We want you to have it." Jake knelt down and took the crystal. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Thank you, Kethver," Jake said. "I'll treasure it always." The child's mother stepped forward. "Captain Miller, our people believe that when someone saves a life, they become part of that person's family. You are now Kethver's human brother." Jake felt honored. He looked at the crystal in his hands, then at the child who had been so brave in the burning ship. "I'm proud to be part of your family," Jake said. Later that evening, Jake was back on the Stellar Dawn with his crew. They were preparing for their first official rescue mission. A mining ship had been trapped in an asteroid field near a dangerous star. The radiation levels were too high for most species to survive. "Sounds like another job for humans," Lisa said. Jake smiled. He looked at the friendship crystal on his desk. Next to it was the medal from the Galactic Council. But what made him proudest was knowing that somewhere in the galaxy, a child named Kethvar was safe because humans didn't give up. Amy looked up from her communication station. "Captain, we're getting another distress call. A passenger ship near the Vega system. They've lost life support and the temperature is dropping fast." "How cold?" Jake asked. -200 degrees, Amy said. "Too cold for most species to survive." Kate laughed. "Good thing humans are stubborn about temperature extremes." Jake stood up and walked to the captain's chair. Through the window, he could see the stars. Somewhere out there, people needed help. People who thought their situation was hopeless. They didn't know that help was coming in the form of a human crew that didn't believe in the word impossible. "Set course for Vega," Jake said. "Let's go save some lives." The stellar dawn turned toward the stars and flew into space. Behind them, they left a galaxy that was learning something new about humans. When everyone else said something couldn't be done, humans found a way to do it. When the heat was too much, when the cold was too extreme, when the situation looked hopeless, humans walked in anyway, because that's what humans do. They don't give up. They don't leave people behind. And they definitely don't let children cry alone in the dark. The rescue service was just beginning, but Jake and his crew were ready for whatever the galaxy could throw at them. After all, they were human, and humans were really good at doing impossible things.